I'll never forget that morning. Our little girl Lily was out front, kneeling on the driveway, drawing a unicorn with her pink sidewalk chalk. She was just 7 years old, wearing her favorite yellow sundress, her teddy bear, Mr. Snuggles, tucked under one arm. Then these two guys showed up. Pretending to be from the HOA, they called her drawing illegal. And out of nowhere, one of them put a lit cigarette right in her eye. Lily's scream ripped down the street like a siren. But what happened after that changed everything. Not just our neighborhood, but the whole country. And if you think you've seen crazy, just wait. This story will shake you. Let me back up for a second. It was supposed to be one of those slow, golden Saturdays, the kind where you hang out in your robe, sipping coffee, with that fresh smell of cut grass floating in the air. The whole neighborhood felt like it had been pulled straight out of a Norman Rockwell painting. Lily was outside, sitting on the driveway, deep in concentration. She was coloring in the horn of the unicorn she'd just drawn, her little freckled face all scrunched up. Her red hair lit up in the morning sun, practically glowing. My wife, Jessica, was out front trimming the rose bushes, and I was in the garage, hunched over the lawn mower, checking the oil. It felt like one of those simple, lucky days, safe, peaceful, normal. And then, the SUV showed up. It was a huge black one, no license plates. It crept down our cul-de-sac slow, like a shark circling a pond. The windows were tinted darker than they're supposed to be. It stopped right at the edge of our driveway. The engine kept running. 2 men got out. At first glance, they looked like cops. But something was off. Their uniforms were just cheap navy blue polos with slapped across the chest, all crooked, like it had been ironed on at the last minute. One guy was massive, built like a linebacker, bald head shining, thick neck bulging like a powerlifter's. The other was shorter, jittery. He had mirrored sunglasses that threw the sun right back at you, a cigarette tucked behind one ear, and a clipboard in his hand. The big guy looked around, then barked out, "Whose kid is this?" Jessica froze mid-snip. "She's ours. Can I help you?" "You can help by getting her off the concrete," he snapped. "She's violating HOA Regulation 14.7b, no chalk drawings on shared property." I felt my stomach drop. I wiped my hands on a rag and started walking toward them. "Shared property? This is our driveway. And we don't even have an HOA, I said. "You do now," the twitchy one chimed in, pulling a crumpled piece of paper out of his back pocket. "Emergency ordinance. Signed yesterday. You were notified." "We definitely were not," Jessica shot back, her voice sharp. "I'm notifying you now," the twitchy guy said, smirking. I opened my mouth to argue, but before I could even get a word out, he flicked the cigarette out of his mouth, but he didn't just drop it. He strutted straight toward Lily. "Hey!" I yelled, stepping forward. "Back away from my daughter." He didn't stop. He crouched down right next to her. Lily looked up at him, confused, clutching Mr. Snuggles tighter against her chest. "She's got attitude," he muttered under his breath. "That's another violation." "She's a child," Jessica cried, her voice shaking with anger. "I'm just drawing a unicorn," Lily said quietly, almost too soft to hear. "Mommy said I could." The guy didn't say a word. He just lit another cigarette and stared at her. Then, so fast I still can't even make sense of it, he jammed the burning tip right into the corner of Lily's eye. Her scream ripped through the air, high and raw and terrible, not even sounding human. Jessica collapsed to her knees, screaming too. I froze for a second, just a second, but it was enough time for the bald one to move toward me. I threw the grease rag right into his face and lunged at the twitchy one. Meanwhile, Lily was on the ground, sobbing, writhing, clutching the side of her face where blisters were already starting to form. Her chalk was scattered everywhere. Mr. Snuggles was lying in the dirt. Smoke was still curling off his shirt where I'd slammed into him. The twitchy guy tried to scramble back, but I had him. I threw my whole weight into the hit. He dropped his cigarette, flinching, trying to shield his face, but I was already swinging. I wasn't thinking, not really. It was just pure rage. His glasses shattered under my fists. I felt his lips split open, blood warm against my knuckles. Somewhere, I heard his clipboard clatter to the pavement. The bald guy grabbed at my shoulders, trying to pull me off, but right then, a neighbor tackled him from behind. There was chaos everywhere. People shouting, phones out recording, a woman sobbing as she screamed into her phone, begging for 911. The twitchy guy, he started screaming too, but not from the punches. It was something deeper. It was the scream of a man realizing he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. This wasn't just some HOA power trip anymore. It wasn't a bluff or a joke. It was war now. And we were way past playing nice. The sirens hadn't even started yet. Not because no one called, they had fast. Everything just happened in seconds. Our neighbor Marcia was still on her phone, shouting our address with shaking hands, her voice climbing into a high, broken pitch. Next door, young Darren was filming it all on his phone, wide-eyed like he was watching a slow-motion car crash. Across the street, old Mr. Gregg, a retired Marine, was halfway down his front steps. He had a cane in one hand and a Louisville Slugger in the other, ready to throw down. But when it's your kid hurting, seconds feel like forever. Lily had crumpled onto the driveway, curled up tight around herself, still clutching Mr. Snuggles like he could somehow make it all better. Jessica scooped her up, screaming, not words anymore, just raw animal sounds. Her voice cracked so bad it sounded like her throat was ripping open. I caught a glimpse of Lily's face, blood welling up where her cheek met her eye socket, the skin already blistered and peeling. That bastard had jammed the cigarette in hard. I grabbed the twitchy guy by the collar and slammed him down onto the hood of my truck. "Who are you?" I roared right in his face. "Who sent you?" He spit out a mouthful of blood and sneered, "We are the authority here." I answered with another punch. His knees buckled. The big bald guy was getting back up, charging at me like a bull, but Greg, God bless him, moved faster than I could have believed. That baseball bat cracked against the back of Baldy's knee with a noise like a gunshot. He howled and dropped like a sack of bricks. Jessica was down on the grass now, rocking Lily back and forth, whispering broken words, trying to shield her from seeing the chaos all around. "She needs ice. We need ice." Jessica screamed toward the house. Marcia heard her and bolted inside, her screen door slamming so hard it echoed down the street. The twitchy guy was bleeding from his mouth, but he still tried to put on that fake tough guy act. "This is a federal HOA enforcement unit," he wheezed. "Lay another hand on me and it's a felony." He reached for his belt, and for 1/6 I froze, thinking gun. But no, he didn't have anything except a cheap little walkie-talkie clipped to his hip, probably straight from some hardware store bargain bin. No badge. No ID. Nothing but that crumpled piece of fake ordnance. That fake move, that half-assed intimidation, that's what snapped the last thread inside me. "You came to my house," I said, pressing my forearm hard into his throat, keeping my voice low and steady. "You put your hands on my daughter, you lit her face on fire, and you thought the rules didn't apply to you?" He gasped, eyes wide, coughing out, "You'll go to jail?" "I'll carry you there," I growled. And that's when I saw it, real fear crawling across his face. Not fear of pain, fear of knowing he'd picked the wrong family. Jessica shouted again, desperate. "She's not breathing right." I whipped around and saw it. Lily's chest was heaving too fast, her whole little body in shock. Her tiny fingers were still clinging to Mr. Snuggles, but they were starting to go slack. That scream I'd been choking down didn't come out as a scream anymore. It turned into pure focus. I yanked the garden hose off the spool, tied the twitchy guy's hands behind his back, and cinched it tight. The bald guy was still moaning on the sidewalk, but I didn't have it in me to care. His leg was bent at a sickening angle, and honestly, he was lucky that's all he got. Jessica was already rushing Lily inside. I was right behind her, pressing a dish towel soaked in cold water gently against Lily's burned cheek. "Ice pack, medical kit, towels," I shouted the second we crossed through the door. We laid Lily down right on the kitchen table. Jessica dropped to her knees beside her, sobbing, whispering over and over, "It's okay, baby, it's okay. Mommy's got you. You're safe." A minute later, Marcia came crashing through the front door with a frozen bag of peas in hand, then spun around and sprinted back for more towels. I grabbed the phone and called 911 myself, just to make damn sure. They attacked my daughter, I said as soon as the operator answered. 2 men, pretending to be HOA enforcers. One of them burned her face with a cigarette. One has a broken leg. I did that. He deserved it. There was a pause on the other end. Then a calm voice said, "Sir, remain at the scene. Officers are en route." I hung up. Back outside, the street was packed. A whole crowd of neighbors had gathered, mostly older folks, veterans, people who still hung their American flags every 4th of July. Phones were out everywhere. Cameras were rolling. The twitchy guy, the one who'd been so smug before, was now on his knees, begging. "Please," he stammered, "we didn't mean to hurt anyone. It was just supposed to be a warning." Greg, standing over him with the bat still in hand, let out a snarl. "A warning," he said, "that your kind runs this neighborhood now?" Someone threw a bottle of water right in the twitchy guy's face. Someone else shouted, "We don't take kindly to cowards touching children." I stepped out onto the porch slowly, blood on my shirt, sweat pouring down my back. I felt like a soldier stepping out of a fog of war. And for the first time in years, I didn't care how I looked. I just wanted these men gone. What happened next, though, I didn't expect. The crowd parted, almost respectfully. Greg walked up, clapped a hand on my shoulder, and said, "You did good, son." I looked down at the twitchy man. His face was streaked with tears. His pants were soaked. "You're gonna tell the police everything," I said, my voice cold. "And if you lie, even once, I'll find you when you get out." He nodded so fast it looked like his neck might snap. And that's when we finally heard it, the sirens. The noise bounced off the houses, made the whole street feel like it was alive, howling for justice. 2 squad cars, an ambulance, and a fire engine came tearing down the block. Flashing red and blue lights bathed every face, every driveway, turning our quiet little cul-de-sac into a full-blown war zone. Jessica was already at the front door, clutching Lily close, her voice hoarse from screaming. "She's 7, Jessica rasped to the paramedics. Burn on her face, she hasn't said a word since it happened. She's shaking, she can't focus. Please, just help her." The EMTs worked fast, moving with that terrifying efficiency that only comes from seeing the worst. One of them, an older guy with steady hands and kind eyes, gently lifted Lily out of Jessica's arms. "You did everything right, ma'am," he said. "We've got her now." Jessica collapsed against the doorframe, sobbing. They worked fast, 4-line, oxygen mask, neck immobilizer. One of them asked if Lily's teddy bear should come along. Jessica nodded so quickly it was like she couldn't nod fast enough. Mr. Snuggles, his fur scorched black on one side, was carefully laid on Lily's chest as they strapped her to the stretcher. That image, Lily on the stretcher, Mr. Snuggles resting on her chest, the pink unicorn she had drawn still bright and untouched on the driveway behind her, burned itself into my mind forever. I stood there, watching the ambulance doors close around my daughter. Then I turned back toward the front yard. The 2 fake HOA cops were still zip-tied down on the concrete, not looking so tough anymore. The officers had already confiscated their fake IDs, their cell phones, and the crumpled piece of paper they tried to pass off as an ordinance. One of the cops, a tough-looking woman with her dark hair in a tight bun, her tactical vest strapped tight, squatted down next to the bald guy. "You want to tell me," she said, voice low and cold, "why there's no record of your organization anywhere, or why you're carrying?" The cop looked the bald guy dead in the eyes. "Falsified enforcement papers?" she asked. He just sat there, silent. She turned to the twitchy one. "How about you, Smokey?" "I didn't know he was going to do that," he stammered, jerking his head toward his partner. "I swear. We were just supposed to issue a warning. Just to scare them. That's all." The officer didn't even blink. "Scaring kids part of your job description?" she asked coldly. Then she turned and glanced over at me. "You the homeowner?" I stepped forward. My knuckles were still throbbing, still burning hot. "Yeah," I said. "Name's Ben Walker. My wife's inside. Our daughter's on her way to the 2nd-degree burn over her eye. These 2 said they were here enforcing some new HOA regulation." But we don't have an HOA. Never have. She stood up and nodded to her partner. They're getting charged with impersonating law enforcement, aggravated assault, assault on a minor, and criminal trespass. Another officer added, and that's just the start. Somebody in the crowd muttered, "Damn right." I glanced around. There had to be at least 15 neighbors standing there now, phones still up, still recording. Greg was off to the side, giving an interview to a local news crew that had shown up out of nowhere. Suddenly, the twitchy guy started shouting, "This is all a misunderstanding. I want a lawyer." "Yeah," Greg growled, "you're gonna need one, cop." The real cops yanked both men to their feet. The bald one whimpered when they moved his broken leg. The whole block stayed quiet, except for the soft clicks of cameras and the low murmur of the newswoman asking questions nobody really wanted to answer. And then, the moment that ended up going viral. Jessica walked out of the house. Her face was streaked with tears, her shirt stained from carrying Lily. She marched right up to where the twitchy man was sitting cuffed next to the squad car, holding something in her hand. It was Lily's pink chalk. Without a word, Jessica knelt down in the middle of the driveway, right where the unicorn's horn had been smudged. In big, shaky letters, she wrote, "No one hurts my child and walks away." Then she stood up, stared straight into the twitchy guy's bloodied face, and said, clear as a bell, "Your life as you know it just ended." That night they were booked. The charges were read out loud on local TV. Impersonating a public official, child endangerment, assault with a deadly object, conspiracy to commit extortion, and obstruction of justice. Turned out, they weren't just a couple of nutjobs in fake uniforms. They were part of a growing ring, a network of so-called community enforcement officers that had been targeting older neighborhoods like ours, places without formal HOAs. Their scam was simple. They'd fake new ordinances, show up in pairs, intimidate families, threaten fines, and disappear before anyone could call the real cops. But this time, they picked the wrong driveway. The footage from that day, the fight, the crowd, the arrests, Jessica's final act of defiance, it blew up. 3 million views in just 48 hours. Reddit exploded. News anchors threw around words like neighborhood vigilante justice and when HOA turns hostile. Strangers sent us flowers, stuffed animals, even a framed digital restoration of Lily's unicorn, made by some artist who saw the story online. And the two men? They never made bail. Because once their faces hit the internet, more families started coming forward. Turns out, we weren't their first victims. But we made damn sure we'd be their last. The first few days after everything went viral were pure chaos. My phone didn't stop buzzing. News vans lined the block. Reporters were camped out in front of our house by then, angling their cameras just right to catch the unicorn chalk outline and those words Jessica had written. "No one hurts my child and walks away." People even started driving in from out of town just to see our driveway. Some left teddy bears on our porch. Some left handwritten notes tucked into the screen door. By Wednesday, somebody had crowd-funded a giant billboard at the entrance of our neighborhood. Big, bold letters across the top, with Lily's smiling school photo on one side. Next to it, a picture of a unicorn she'd drawn, and underneath, it just said, "They drew the line. We drew time." By the end of the week, there were 3 more arrests. The police found out the 2 men, real names Craig Dellier and Rodney Pitts, had been running their little scam for over a year. They even had a storage unit full of fake uniforms, printed ordinances, and replica badges. It looked almost professional, but it got worse. Inside that storage unit, they also found a ledger full of names, addresses, and payment amounts. Over 70 entries. Some people had paid $200. Others had handed over more than 1,000. It was mostly seniors, single moms, immigrants, good people who were too scared to question a uniform and too exhausted to fight what they thought was some kind of bureaucracy. Folks who just wanted to live quiet lives and thought that if they paid, these fake cops would leave them alone. But with us, they pushed too far. And that changed everything. Rodney, the twitchy one, cracked first under questioning. He admitted they used intimidation to shake people down. Said Lily's chalk drawing was an easy target. They figured if they scared us badly enough, We'd cough up double just to make them go away. When they asked him why he attacked her, why he burned a little girl's face, his answer was chilling. She rolled her eyes, he said. I hate when kids do that. That one sentence made national headlines. Fake HOA cop. I hate when kids do that. Defense for assault on 7-year-old. Even the president tweeted about it. We started getting flooded with invitations to appear on morning shows. Jessica refused them all. I went once, just once, to say one thing. I sat there on camera and said, I didn't protect her in time. But I made damn sure they'll never hurt another kid again. That 7-second clip went everywhere, shared by veterans groups, parental rights organizations, even law enforcement unions. But honestly, the most important thing that happened was this: families started coming forward. A woman in New Mexico had paid them $800 after they threatened to tow her car for blocking community access. A Korean War vet in Georgia had been forced to take down his American flag after they told him it violated HOA visual decorum. A single mom in Kentucky gave them her last rent check because they threatened to report her unlicensed childcare. Each new story just poured gasoline on the fire. The prosecutors stepped up the charges: racketeering, conspiracy, endangerment of a minor, and assault with intent to permanently disfigure. Emma's medical report was part of the evidence package: second-degree burns, nerve trauma, partial damage to her tear duct. When Craig and Rodney were finally dragged into court, shackled, pale, no smug grins left, the courtroom was standing room only. You could hear a pin drop. Jessica sat beside me, clutching my hand so tightly I thought she might crush the bones. Lily wasn't there. She was home, still healing. But she sent something with me, her new drawing. The original chalk unicorn had washed away with the rain. So she redrew it on paper. This time, the unicorn was even brighter. The wings were bigger, stronger. And across the bottom, in her small, careful handwriting, she had written, "No more scary men." The judge allowed me to present it during the victim impact statement. I held up that drawing for the jury to see. They didn't need any more convincing. 2 weeks later, sentencing was handed down. 28 years each. No parole. Rodney broke down and wept. Craig tried to shout something about overreach and biased courts, but nobody cared. Nobody was listening. Outside the courthouse, people were cheering. Veterans saluted. Parents cried. Somebody started playing God Bless America from a Bluetooth speaker. Jessica and I didn't cheer. We just stood there, side by side on the courthouse steps, quiet, exhausted, relieved, and proud. Because for once, justice hadn't been bargained down. It had come in full. Later that month, the mayor made it official. He declared the day of the attack as Lily Walker Day, a new local holiday to celebrate kids' resilience and the power of a community that stands up. The city even installed a bench down at the park, with Lily's unicorn drawing etched into the backrest. Greg, our veteran neighbor who swung the bat, got awarded a Civic Hero Medal. He hung it right over his workbench in the garage, like it belonged there. And Lily, she healed. Not just on the outside. Inside, she started drawing again. But this time, no unicorns. Now she drew lions. The scar healed mostly. It's still there if you know where to look. Just a soft, pale crescent beside her left eye. Sometimes when the light catches it just right, it shimmers like a ghost of that terrible morning. But Lily never tried to hide it. She said it made her look fierce. The first time she said that, Jessica cried. Not out of sadness, but because it was true. 2 months after the trial ended, we hosted a little backyard barbecue. Not so much to celebrate, but to reclaim our space. Neighbors showed up. Greg brought ribs. Marcia brought enough lemonade for an army. Even the new police chief stopped by with his daughter. He handed Lily a stuffed lion wearing a tiny police vest. Lily hugged it tight. Then, without a word, she sat down right there in the driveway, chalk in hand, and started to draw. Not a unicorn this time. A lion. A flaming mane. Sharp, proud eyes. One scar slashed across its left brow. She crowned it with a gold crown, drew flames roaring behind it, and then, in big, pink letters underneath, she wrote, "No fear. No shame." It wasn't just a message for us. It was a message for everyone. Jessica stood behind me, her hand resting on my arm. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Because something had shifted that day. This wasn't the same little girl who had screamed in my arms while a cigarette burned into her skin. This wasn't the same child who once clutched a half-melted teddy bear while fake men barked threats over her innocence. This was someone new. Stronger. Wiser. Unbreakable. By fall, the city invited Lily to help open the new community art wall downtown. They gave her the first panel. She painted the lion again, this time in vibrant acrylics, gold leaf around the eyes, and glitter shimmering through the mane. News crews showed up. Volunteers lined up just to help. She signed her name at the bottom in purple. Lily Walker, age 7. It made the cover of the local paper. The headline read, "Little Girl, Big Roar." We framed that front page and hung it above our fireplace. And Mr. Snuggles, still a little scorched but stitched back together, sat right there on the mantel watching over it all. Then came the letters. Not from lawyers. Not from reporters. From other kids. Dozens of them. Some had scars. Some had been bullied. Some were just scared kids who saw the video or heard about the trial or read about the lion. They wrote things like, "Lily, your story made me feel brave. Lily, I showed my scar to my class today. Lily, I finally told my dad what happened. I couldn't before." Jessica kept every single one in a special box. And every night, Lily would sit with us, reading them out loud one by one, that little half-smile back on her face. The same smile she used to have when she drew unicorns. Only now, she drew protectors. About a year after it all happened, I took Lily on a drive. We didn't say much. We just pulled up outside the prison, not a cemetery, but a cold, gray wall with razor wire curling along the top. Craig and Rodney, inmate numbers 499Y02 and 499Y03, were locked inside. We didn't go in. We just sat there in the car, the engine ticking softly. Lily sat quietly in the passenger seat, her sketchbook resting on her lap. "Are they still in there?" Lily asked me quietly. "Yeah," I said. She flipped open her sketchbook to a fresh page and, without a word, started drawing. 2 rats in uniforms behind bars, one twitchy, one bald. She titled it Fake Power. Then she shut the book and said, "That's enough. I'm done drawing them." And we drove home. There's this quote I once read, don't even remember where. "When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous but terror to evildoers." But I'd add something else to that. When real justice shows up, it does more than change laws. It gives kids their roar back. It reminds neighborhoods they're not powerless. It proves monsters don't win, not when we fight like hell. And sometimes, justice looks a lot like a lion drawn in chalk by a little girl who stopped believing in unicorns, but never stopped believing in herself. You'd think a story like ours would end inside a courtroom. It doesn't. It ends in school cafeterias. It ends at local elections. It ends during late-night phone calls from strangers you've never met. 3 months after the sentencing, Jessica got a call from the school district. They wanted Lily's help naming a new district-wide project for student safety and neighborhood awareness. They called it Project Lion. Learn, identify, overcome, never again. Lily even got to design the logo, a lion cub with a scar over its eye and a tiny badge on its chest. They printed it on folders, posters, even the vests worn by crossing guards. But that wasn't the strangest thing that happened. The weirdest part came in the form of a plain envelope, no return address, postmarked from a federal prison in Missouri. Inside was a letter and a drawing. It was from an inmate named Jason Myers, 37 years old, serving 15 years for fraud and impersonating law enforcement in another state. He said he had seen the viral clip. Watched the trial. His drawing was rough, shaky pencil lines fading in places. But it showed a lion, hunched, wounded, kneeling before a girl holding a piece of chalk like a sword. He wrote, "I used to pretend I was strong. Uniforms, threats, fake power. But your girl, even hurt, had more real strength in her face than I ever had faking it. I saw myself in those men, and I hated it." He ended the letter with, "If I ever walk out of here, I want to be real. Tell her thank you for showing me what that looks like. Jessica folded that letter up and tucked it behind Lily's framed lion drawing. That night Lily asked, "Was he a bad guy?" Jessica didn't answer right away. Finally she said, "He did bad things. But maybe he's trying to be better now." Lily thought about it for a second, then whispered, "Okay, but I still don't trust men with clipboards." About a month later, Hamilton voted to get rid of the HOA system altogether. Unanimous. Turns out, our story had pulled back the curtain on years of corruption. Not just scams, but citywide silence about fake enforcers pretending to be officials. No more secret fines. No more shadow rules. A task force was formed. Regular citizens were invited to join. Jessica got asked to speak at the first town hall. She declined. Instead, she sent a simple message, written in chalk. "Real authority protects. Fake authority burns." They etched those words into the new city charter the same day the reforms passed. And Lily? She got a scholarship. It came from a group of retired Marines and firefighters who started a nonprofit called the Chalkline. Their mission? To teach kids how to stand up to intimidation, how to spot coercion, and how to speak up even when their voice shakes. The day they gave Lily the grant, they also gave her a custom-made backpack. Inside it were a full set of pastel chalks, a copy of the Bill of Rights, and a gold-stitched patch with a lion's head and the words, "You drew the line." Justice isn't always a gavel coming down in a courtroom. Sometimes it's a child's drawing that refuses to wash away in the rain. Sometimes it's a story that spreads faster than any lie ever could. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, it's a little girl with fire in her eyes and ash still on her teddy bear, teaching a whole city what courage actually looks like. That's the part nobody planned for. And that's the part that matters the most.